So picking up off from where we left in the Uber, tell me a bit about how meditation makes you feel like after you've reached a certain level of like where you're able to do it properly. How does it feel for you?
Like right now?
Just yeah, if you were to meditate now, how describe it to people like me who haven't accessed that level yet.
Well, today I had a pretty good session today, and then where I just felt like everything slowed down and like I was merged. Like I closed my eyes, and then like you know how when you close your eyes, you're not really closing your eyes, because when you close your eyes, you're still seeing things. But you never really stop seeing things. When you close your eyes, people think, oh, you stop seeing things, and it's just black. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of patterns behind your eyelids that are just as much part of like your sight, your perception, and reality as like when you just open your eyes. So like for me, closing your eyes and opening them, it really is kind of like the same thing. Mm-hmm. That's why like when I went to the isolation tank, I tried going to the isolation tank one time, and then like it didn't really do that much for me, because first of all, like when I meditate, I scale my whole body up and down until like my whole body dissolves. Mm-hmm. So like I can just be sitting here and then I can feel like I'm in a flotation tank. Okay. Because yeah, when I'm in the flotation tank, it's just sensations. Right? My body just clouds of sensations. It didn't really matter if I'm sitting down, laying down, or in the isolation tank, or just walking. Even when I'm walking, I just feel like I'm my feet hitting the ground, just clouds of sensations. So I'm just always floating in empty space with different intensities and variations and degrees of sensations. That's the only variation, but it's still just sensations. Yeah. And same with your sight and even sound. Like when I close my eyes in the isolation tank, I see all those patterns. Or when I meditated this morning, like when I close my eyes, there's so many details. There's even more details when you close your eyes than you open your eyes. Yeah. Because when you open your eyes, you're kind of distracted by the conceptual schemes of like, oh, that's a TV, and that's a light, that's a camera, and that sort of fuck with your connection to like reality, because like your reality is filtered through like this conceptual like categories of like light, camera, and TV. That sort of fuck with your meditation, because meditation is all about like connecting with reality, connecting with the source. And then when you close your eyes, when you aren't distracted by this conceptual scheme, you can actually find yourself connecting to reality easier. So today when I closed my eyes, I could actually feel like I was merging with the patterns or the different sensations and the different there's so many different patterns, and I see so many things right now just closing my eyes. And then once you sort of transcend the idea that, oh, now I'm closing my eyes and I'm just seeing darkness, there's so much in here that you could explore. And then I was just like arising and passing. My consciousness was like arising and passing along with whatever pattern that's in my eye, and I just feel like everything feels like lava, And then in Vipassana meditation, you call that, there's a phase called arising and passing. When you get to a certain level, you feel like everything you perceive is arising and passing. But then before, when I wasn't as advanced, I asked my friend when he was talking about this phase, like the arising and passing. You can actually look it up on the meditation map. There's actually a map that sort of categorizes different levels of meditation, and then there's a level, like I said, called arising and passing. I was like, isn't everything just arising and passing? Then he said something that really hit me. He was like, how close can you observe arising and passing? Because one of the Buddha's insight was everything's arising and passing, everything's impermanent. Impermanence is one of the major insights in Buddhism. Because of impermanence, you shouldn't hold on to anything, because everything's impermanent, right? The only thing that you holding on to are like concept, like, oh, there's time, and there's the past, there's the future. But in reality, those concepts don't really exist when you just merge with what's going on right now. And then I could like feel like I'm just arising and passing with the sensations that's appearing in front of me at this moment, in the matter of direct experience. So I just felt like everything slowed down, and I was like swimming in lavas, and like even the sensation of my body is like the reality just feels like lava. And like I heard this teacher, one of my favorite teacher, his name is Shizhen Young. He said like even when he opens his eyes and when he's looking at a chair, he's looking at a cup of coffee, he's looking at light, he still feels like arising and passing. But I couldn't get to that stage yet, because once I open my eyes, I still the conceptual schemas of like chair, of TV, of lights is still kind of mind fucks with me, and that I couldn't like break through that matrix yet. Yeah, but it's easier when you close your eyes and you can sort of break through that matrix of those conceptual schemas of sights and perceptions. Damn. So today I just felt like, to make it short, today I just felt like I was lava, and everything else was lava, and was just like whatever sensations that's arising and passing through my consciousness, it just I'm just morphing with it. And it's like when you get to that stage, when you can just open your eyes and feel like everything like is arising and passing, arising from the source and going back to the source like moment by moment, it's going to be really hard for you to suffer, because anything that comes into your consciousness, you kind of flow with it. You know that it's going to, in a second or two, in a millisecond or two, or maybe some emotions are more sticky, maybe like 5 minutes, 5 seconds, it's going to eventually go back to the source, into emptiness, and dies. So there's no point of attaching yourself or your ego or your emotion to anything that arises, because if you are part of that arising and passing, you know that it's gonna, whatever arises is gonna pass. However traumatic your experience is right now, it's gonna pass. And when you connect with that arising and passing, that fluctuation, that makes up reality, that contraction and that expansion, and when you just flow with it, it's hard to hold on to anything. Because when we hold on to it, I think like 95% of human suffering comes from attaching your ego, or attaching your sense of self to something that's always changing, always like it's always impermanent. You're trying to like make something that's impermanent and always changing into something that's static. So that's the majority of suffering. We perceive things as static when in fact things are just morphing and arising and passing like moment by moment. And if the closer you can get to the source, the more you can vipassanize your perception, and the more the more microscopic your perception is, the more you can just like experientially understand that whatever is arising, it just ride with it, and it's gonna go back to the source, right? So the same with the sense of self. A lot of times we holding on to our identity and the sense of self, but our sense of self, just like the perception when I close my eyes when I feel like lava, everything is just morphing, kind of like a what's that thing when you look through that? Yeah, it's kind of like that. Yeah. And then there's nothing static. Even when I look at an object like this chicken, like it's not static. It's constantly arising and passing. Arising from the source and then going back to the source. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after you meditate, and then you're able to see the rising and passing, but you say you can't see it all the time because
I can't see it all the time because I'm not there yet. Yeah. But like this meditation teacher, Xi Jinping, he said that even when he looks at a person, he doesn't see a person. He sees an earthquake. I use the word lava because that's how I feel. Yeah, but like when he said when he looks at a student, he doesn't see like a face or a person. He of course like conceptually he knows it's a person. He knows it's Kevin. He knows it's Frank. But then he can like penetrate the deeper structure of reality, and then just see you as kind of like I guess the best metaphor, the easiest metaphor is when you take acid or psychedelics or mushrooms. When you see a person, their face morphs and stuff, right? But then an advanced meditator is able to like access that all the time. So when he said that he sees his student talking to him in front of him, he doesn't see a person. He sees an earthquake. That's a rise. He just sees a bundle of sensations arising, passing through the source. And then everything he experiences is like that. So it's really hard for him to suffer because, like I say, like 90% of our suffering comes from perceiving change as static. For someone who is like really advanced in meditation, he's seeing through everything through a magnifying glass. If you zoom in all the way to my face, or any experience, or any perception, or any thought, it's just it's just sensations, particles, like I said, rising and passing, like that. Yeah. For him, everything is like a smoke. Everything is like lava. Yeah, so like even like an emotion, you say, 5 minutes, but for him, 5 minutes was too long. For him, it's just like a microscopic second. Everything's just changing. Yeah.
Another question, real quick one. Do you think you can bypass sickness from mental health? You don't get sick if your mental health is in the right place. Like you're
less likely to get sick, I think.
Yeah. So you think it's a balance of two, because I have a friend who really believes that sickness is from the mind, not so much from the outside.
From the outside, but the way I look at it is like the mind in here, the environment, your body. I look at them as like from a certain perspective, from the relative perspective, they're different. Like I said, different categories of different perceptions. Like the example I used before. But from the perspective of truth or non-duality, it's all just one. So like thought, most people think of the mind as just something that's in here, but for me, the mind is not just like whatever's locked in the brain. It's also the feedback between what's in here and the environment, and the line between what's in here and the environment and what's in the body. For me, doesn't really exist. So like I say, if you go deeper in your practice of meditation or whatever, you realize that line between the body, between your body and my body and your body, or even just between the air here and my body, the line doesn't exist. Because when you zoom in deep enough, when you like perform mindfulness at the subatomic level, that all that line break down. That's what non-duality is the dissolvement of the dissolution of all the lines that we think are separating different people, species, different parts of reality. When you bypass those conceptual lines, it's all just the same. So when you get to that level, everything dissolves. There's no such thing as a mind anymore. Because when you think of a mind, it's like something locked in the skull. But when I think of a mind, it's like the mind is right here. This is the mind, this is the body too. Like the body is part of the mind. Because what is the body but clouds of sensations arising in consciousness? So everything for me is mental. So when you have a healthy state of mind, or with where your mental state affect your physical health, is that what you're asking? Of course it will, right? But then will your physical state affect your mind? Of course it will too, because they're the same thing. It's just different part of the mind interacting with each other. You know what I'm saying? 100%. So it's kind of like they're just different perceptions, different sensations. Even I look at the brain, it's just another perception. Because people think the brain is like this physical organ that produces images and thoughts, and the images and thoughts and ideas that the brain produces is made up of something that's immaterial, like the soul or like a mind, and the brain is physical. It applies to the laws of physics. But for me, like the brain itself, from the experiential level, is just another image. So the brain is not the producer or the creator of images and perceptions. It's in itself just another image and perception. But the brain is a special kind of perception. You know what I mean? Like just think about the brain right now. Think about the brain in your mind. Isn't that just a perception? That's just a thought. The brain is just another thought. So the brain is not the producer of thought, but it's just another thought. Even if I take my brain out and show you my brain, if I hold my 3-pound organ right here, isn't that just another perception? How is that different from the perception of ketchup? From the direct experience point of view, from the everything's consciousness model, the brain is just another perception arising in consciousness. But that doesn't mean that the brain is the same perception as, say, a cup of water, because obviously the brain is a little different. It's a different kind of perception. It's a different kind of idea. Then people are like, okay, if you take a psychedelic and put it in your mouth and you alter your brain, that proves that the brain is quote unquote physical. But that's not really true, because the psychedelic is one perception, the brain is another perception, and your perception of the interaction between the psychedelic and the brain is another perception. So the whole universe is nothing but a giant hallucination, and within this giant hallucination, different kinds of perceptions and different kinds of thought interact with each other, because the whole universe is one giant thought. Right? So the brain is special in the sense that the brain is a special kind of perception that could have a more like global effect on other perceptions. And why that is, I don't know.
What do you think about drawing?
Drawing, okay. We talked about this in the car, because I saw like Kevin's videos, and then like I was like, dude, you got some talent. Some people call it talent. Now when I look at quote unquote talent, I see it as something that is not really like something that's like, well, it is genetics, but I look at it more like an ability to connect to the source. If you connect to the source, then your work would be good. It would be beautiful.
So you feel that children who are naturally good at certain things, naturally good, and people would say talent, that's just their ability.
The ability to connect with the source.
Do you think that's genetic?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something to do with genetics. Yeah, that's definitely. Even meditation has a lot of genetic factors to it. Like I think meditation is no different from like athletic training. It's like people. There's some people who get into meditation. They do it for like 5 years, 10 years, and they don't have the insight of somebody else who. The mystical experiences of someone who's been meditating for like 2 months. So there's a huge genetic factor, I think, in meditation, just as a sport.
Can you explain to people that might not know what the source is?
The source is so reality is one consciousness, and some people call it like the God's mind, but not the God of the person with the gray hair judging you, but the ultimate intelligence that's sort of we all partake in, right? We all sort of like. Our minds are sort of just connecting machines that connects to the source, and how much each of our brain and our own mind, our individual mind connects to that ultimate source. it varies. And then so talent for me, and some children, like there are a lot of people who are like 5 years old, and like Mozart, how's he able to do like compose music at 5 years old when other people learn composition for like 30 years, they still can make shit, you know? So Mozart is better at, he's more like, I guess another word is, he's not as filtered. He you know, like people who aren't as connected to the source, you can see like just basketball player again, like Kobe Bryant, he's like so fluid, it's like, it's almost like it's not even him doing it. It's like he just lets go and let reality takes over. So you can take that analogy to anything from drawing and filmmaking and photography, and people who are really talented at art, they have the knack for just like connecting to the source. And then I think the number one factor to connect to the source is letting go of your sense of self and your ego. It's kind of paradoxical because like obviously Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan are egoistic fuckers, you know, and like Beethoven was an egomaniac. But then they have this ability to turn on and off their ego, kind of like when I can guarantee you when Beethoven is like composing his best music, when he's in the zone, when Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, LeBron James, when they're in the zone, they're not thinking about themselves. They're not really thinking about it. They're just flowing with reality. But then it's maybe the game is over and their ego might comes over, and then they have a big ego. So the ego is not just like, oh, you have a big ego, and it's the ability to turn on and off your sense of self or your ego that determines your level of success.
That's huge for any creator, pretty much, because if you want to create real like stuff that's really good, you need to connect to
you need to connect to the source.
To get the inspiration. That's ultimately where all ideas come from. So like a good connection to the source would mean that you'll be able to create more genuinely. And also
there's a phrase that I really like. That I always say it's the act of creativity is, the process of creativity starts from the ego, but the truth takes over. So let's see.